Quite a feisty President Joe Biden, many times during that speech, looking directly at Republicans, challenging them on several issues. I thought it was certainly smart of him to challenge them, specifically on Social Security. They begin to boo. He's like, oh, I guess y'all don't want to cut it, huh? Baited them into that. You see him there on the floor just shaking hands with Senator Raphael Warnock. As he was there as well. Of course, again, you're talking about a speech. Normally they spend lots of time focusing on how long it was, whatever the hell. State of the Union's going to be always long, so I'll leave that crap to CNN and the rest of them folks. Several things, obviously, he hit on most of the speech, the first half of the speech, talking about accomplishments in terms of what he was able to do. The through line throughout the speech was, let's finish the job. That seemed to be him repeating that mantra several times over. Normally, of course, in these speeches, you always see them wanting to have the human element, recognizing folks who are there in the audience with the First Lady. You saw him doing that several times. You see he's there talking with Congressman Greg Meeks of New York there. And of course, you have Congresswoman Maxine Waters looking to make her way to the front to shake the president's hand. He's spending lots of time talking to folks, obviously, on his side of the aisle. Looks like most of the Republicans have cleared out. They couldn't wait to get out of there. And so Democrats are, of course, doing their part. He did talk about, of course, the very emotional point there with the family of Tyre Nichols, the mother and the father there. And he talked about police reform. We're going to get into that as well. Toward the end of the speech, he mentioned voting rights. It was a quick mention, nothing substantive there as well. Let's go to Melanie Campbell. Going to go to you first, National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. That has to be disappointing, Melanie, that he virtually spent no time pushing Congress to take action when it comes to voting in this country.
Yeah, I thought it was a very strong speech, but that was missing. When he talked about reproductive rights, very important, and when you talk about democracy and the attack on democracy, and not mention, I do believe that was the very thing that I think that was a major missing matter. But it was a great, strong speech, a lot of great coverage, and I liked him going straight at the folks. That's like being, you got folks and looking them in the eye. And that was really important as well, that he showed he is not scared, as they say. But I think that voting rights should have been moved, very, very much so.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I'm always one for challenging folks directly. That's always important there in terms of being able to hit folks just where they are. Makanga, when you think about when we talked about insulin, that was one of the things there. And I can't think of anybody who lives in those Republican districts who are dealing with health issues who would not mind having insulin capped at $35. You saw Republicans sitting on their hands. In essence, what the contrast there was the president saying, look who's with Big Pharma and look who isn't.
Absolutely. And when he talks about let's get the job done, what he talked about tonight, this is what he needs to do across the country. He needs to take the message to all of Americans, especially these rural folks and Republicans, to let them know that the policies I'm putting in place are benefiting you. When he's talking about not only the insulin, but even when he talked about the infrastructure, like these guys can't benefit from good roads and good bridges and good schools and reconstruction of that type of sort. And so if he can go with this type of message, really take it home to the people and drive it, he can actually, and like you said, he saw the Republicans who are there, they didn't stand up for any of that. So he can literally say, the people you are supporting, who are you really going to get out there and claim when it's time to vote? Because you know these guys are going to come and claim what I did anyway.
Right,
They're trying to get paid off the path I laid, but I'm the one who's actually making it happen. So we need to get this job done. He needs to take that across the country, him, Harris, and the whole party. Take it to the face.
Recently in his speech, he said, I'll be there for the ribbon cutting ceremony. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
I thought one of the greatest mistakes that President Obama did was they did not take proper credit for that first bill that they signed in 2009, and they allowed the narrative to get established that it was a failed bill. They gave Republicans everything they wanted. It was filled with tax cuts, a significant number of tax cuts in it. And so, to me, smart politics is wherever there is a ribbon cutting for an infrastructure project that member of Congress voted against, he should be sending, either he should be there or the vice president should be there or a cabinet member should be there to remind folks and actually remind them who didn't vote for it and who did.
That's right.
And that's exactly what they're doing, actually. It doesn't get the same coverage as these tawdry, gossipy, behind closed door, and no way, insider stories. But Vice President Kamala Harris was just breaking ground on lead pipes with Secretary Michael Regan, EPA Administrator Michael Regan, rather. And we see Biden and them out there.
But who do they tell? Who? That's the thing for me. Who the hell do they tell? And I mean, that's the biggest thing for me is if you're doing it, who are you telling it? How you're servicing it? How you pushing out video? How the hell are you pushing out photos? They don't do that, and so you might be there, but what they're doing is they're banking on media showing up.
Right.
No, bring your own damn cameras.
Well, I think the problem with the administration is they believe that they can win the war organically. They try to engage influence, they try to engage certain media, but you're up against a machine that is deliberately pushing out disinformation, misinformation. I've talked about this so many times. There's a whole organized chaos machine. It's not just the Republican Party. It's foreign operatives. It's people who get clicks off of being inflammatory and pushing a negative narratives. That's what they're up against.
Okay,
That's
so
the
the perfect
profit
example,
motive.
she was there with Michael Regan when?
It was last week.
Gotcha, last week. All right, so let me go to the vice president. No, here's a perfect example. So, I'm just trying to illustrate for folks so they can understand again how this works. Let's see here. Go to my iPhone. So I'm on the vice president's Twitter page. Let me slide over here to media. Let me click media. Okay, and let's go to media. Okay, so we got that. We got photos. I'm looking for last week. Let's see here. That's a day ago. Again, I'm seeing photos.
Well, she does do a lot. You are seeing she does do a lot.
Right.
These are all
I'm
different
seeing
appearances.
that. And so here we go. All right, this is 4 days ago. They make the largest investment in America's water infrastructure in history. Okay, we got a photo.
She had an entire summit with different leaders.
But here's my whole deal. It's a Twitter page. Where the video? Where the clips? How are you kicking those out? And then that way somebody can grab those and retweet those and push those things out. Again, if you're complaining that you're not getting the coverage, then what you do is you actually drive your own coverage for folks to actually pick it up. This is the weakness to me of, and this is, they keep putting out white papers. Ain't nobody reading no three. You've been talking about this for the longest. Ain't nobody reading a 3-damn-page white paper on what in the hell you did. You're gonna be putting out memes, graphics, video. It ain't that damn hard.
They have been doing a better job of the graphics, but what they don't understand is that people don't see what you put out on your page because they're not interacting with it because their algorithms are showing them gossip and sports and a number of things. They have to pay to promote their materials. Just same way I see Il Makiage every other live. I see Procter Gamble every other.
Which means they have budgets, or you utilize the DNC. You utilize that to actually do that. But that's part of the deal here. It is everything goes back to establishing the narrative. That's what it boils down to. I don't care who you're talking about. It's establishing the narrative. And when you allow other people to frame the narrative, they're always going to win. You have to be able to rebut that. I saw something earlier today was like one of the Biden advisors said he made a mistake by not going on Tucker Carlson's show dealing with COVID. I'm like, absolutely. Okay, damn your critics. I believe. Look, I ain't afraid to go after nobody. Pick a show, I'll be there. Because again, they count on you saying no. They want you to say no. When you say yes, it's like, oh, damn, now I'm going to actually talk to them. Because they're coming here. And that's what they actually don't do. Hold tight 1 second. We're going to continue our conversation about President Joe Biden's State of the Union address. Reddit Hudson, we're going to be talking with him about his thoughts of what he had to say about police reform. I got something to say. White House, y'all ain't going to like it, but tough, it needs to be said about what he said about police reform in his speech. We'll talk about that and more as you're watching the Black Star Network's exclusive coverage on President Joe Biden's State of the Union address. Ain't nobody else in black media having this conversation right now. They probably showed some sitcoms on other networks. And, of course, those other black websites, they probably talk about gossip, as you were talking about. That ain't what we do. And so we're having the real conversation, keeping you informed about what's going on. You're watching the Black Star Network. We'll be back in a moment.
Most people think that these television shows that tell stories about who we are as black men, and then they paint these monolithic portraits of us. They think that they're being painted by white people. And I gotta tell you, there are a whole bunch of black folk that are the creators, the head writers, the directors of all of these shows, and that are still painting us as monoliths. The people don't really want to have this conversation.
No, they don't. When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. All right, y'all, welcome to the after party. That's how we do it here. Of course, the blackest show out here. You will not see this many black people at one time on, hell, you ain't gonna see all the networks combined. Hell, this many black people talking about President Biden's State of the Union address. Hell, it'd take them a whole week to have this many black people talking about it. We'll continue our conversation discussing what, of course, what he had to say. Dean, I'm gonna go to you. I thought one of the worst moments for the Republicans tonight. When the president says, I'm going to order all construction materials on infrastructure projects to be made in America, they all sit their ass down. I'm like, okay, now damn, I get, okay, Republicans and Democrats, but how the hell you don't stand up on that one?
Right, but Roland, you've been in town long enough, you know that.
Hold up, my phone.
Pardon. You've been in town long enough. You know the political dance that's played. So yes, Republicans typically stand and clap for anything USA made in America. This was being pitched by Biden, so there's a jaundiced skepticism to it. But we know how this. We know.
I get the game.
You know what
but
I mean?
You can't say you can't always yell "Made in America."
Right. No, I agree.
And not at least on that one.
Right,
Go.
but for us
you
to
know
sit,
what?
for us to sit here in this room of lovely black people, and you're right, you will not find this many black people on any post SOTU conversation. But for us to pretend that it is that does not happen, it does happen, and and so Republicans aren't going to stand.
But if a Republican,
and I'm not saying it's right.
but if a Republican president
This
said,
is the political theater that we
I get that, but the Republican president said, "I'm going to require all items be bought in America." I'm like,
right.
damn good thing. I mean, I don't
That'd be a bad thing.
Are we so controlled by theater that?
But Democrats are controlled by theater as well, and I will not sit. I won't practice selective outrage. They should have clapped on pro-America, Made in America.
But what is there to oppose when you talk about buying in America? That's like buy black to a bunch of black people.
I'm not
what is there to oppose?
There is nothing to oppose. I think that one of the issues
Why
is
do you think that they didn't
because
applaud?
because it is political theater, and it is what happens. So I'm not going, and so for me to sit and to pretend that there's some sort of the anti-American theme, or
I'm not saying it's an anti-American thing. What I'm saying
is because Biden said it.
No, here's the whole deal. Here's the whole point. If you're gonna stand up as the chamber when he talks about Tyree Nichols, they sit up on that. What I'm saying is there are always moments in a State of the Union where everybody stands up.
Everybody stands.
I'm just saying, if you're gonna talk, if you have this infrastructure bill that was, $1 trillion, okay, and you're saying we want to buy all the construction materials in America, to me, that's a freebie. I don't think any conservative commentator, any Republican voter is going to say, you know what, you shouldn't have stood your ass up on that one. I just don't think.
I get that's a laudable point. They should have stood. Absolutely. I think one of the things that make a couple points. When we were going into the speech, I at least talked about, will this be an area where President Biden will make the case for Democrats, you all in the room, to be able to support him?
First of all, not anybody in this room Democrats.
Okay, many of you in the room to support him in 2024. And I think that he did make the case to a certain extent for Democrats to champion him. I think he'll have a little bump because he hit all of the points that will gin up Democrats and that will kind of make conservatives and Republicans uncomfortable. He talked about reproductive rights. I'm with Fannie Lou Hamer, who calls reproductive rights legalized murder. He talked about issues of
Fannie Hamer, who had a hysterectomy at the hands of the doctors.
Come on, tell the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's tough.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's tough.
But she still was very clear about, when I think of legacy values, she was very clear about her opinion on abortion.
Let's walk through the history.
No, let's walk through the history. Let's walk through all of her speeches.
Don't do that to Fannie Lou Hamer.
Let's walk through all of her.
Did she have 19 children?
Let's walk through all of her speeches, all of her discourse on that. But what I'm saying is that he was very clear about what he needed to do for Democrats. And this speech did nothing. He always talks about being the president of unity. This speech, while it was rallying and it did not hit the mark of unity.
Dina, hold on. Wait. Hold up. Well, I'm gonna do this here. Hold up. Wait. Hold up. That ain't true.
Yeah.
What's not true?
Okay, first of all, I'm about to walk it down.
Okay.
But I think Greg wants to respond.
No, I don't really.
You sure? Okay.
This is a white nationalist party. Let me be. No. I'm not going to engage in a rhetorical back and forth. The reason they didn't stand up is because at that point, by that time of the speech, Biden had walked them up and down, and they had stood up a couple of times. He drove them into a ditch. Right.
Okay.
You see.
I disagree with you.
He was speaking. Well, no. Let's be very clear about this. First of all, this speech was a campaign speech.
It was a campaign speech.
Like every State of the Union, but now we're in it, and he ended
It was a
with...
campaign speech because you have a president who 68% of his party does not want him to run again.
Actually, it's not.
No.
Let's
be very...
60. First of all, it's not 68. The ABC Washington Post poll is 58, not 68.
What I'm saying is...
I'm just going to give a factual deal here.
58%.
But let me say this here, okay? The first third of the speech, he consistently said what we did in a bipartisan way.
That's exactly.
No. You said he didn't talk about unity.
No, I said he is the unity president.
No. I'm going to state fact.
Signed over
Quote,
300 pieces.
You know, we are often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over these past 2 years, we proved the cynics and the naysayers wrong.
Right.
Yes, we disagreed plenty, and yes, there were times when Democrats had to go it alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together. Came together to defend a stronger and safe Europe. Came together to pass a once-in-a-generation infrastructure law, building bridges to connect our nation and people. Came together to pass one of the most significant laws ever, helping veterans exposed to toxic burn. No. Hold up, no. Because if you're going to say he didn't offer a unity message, I'm going to respond with what he actually said. He said, in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan laws since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act to the Electoral Count Reform Act to the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry persons you love. To my Republican friends, if we could work together in the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together in this new Congress. How is that not unity if he lays out what we did bipartisanly?
I agree. You clearly read the things that he talked about that were unifying. There were many messages in this speech that will strike conservatives and Republicans as lack of unity.
Of course, because when you are the president,
let's talk about that.
Actually, Melanie, hold on. When you're the president of the United States and you have your priorities, you will do that. But to say he did not speak about unity, he literally led with it.
And so let me say this. He talked about these areas of unity, but from me as a conservative and a Republican, recognizing that those are two not necessarily the same things, but as a conservative and a Republican, for me, his message, there were many things that were so for his base that and for his 2024 election.
But isn't that what you do?
Hold on, give us some examples.
Hold on a second, Melanie, your comment. But that's kind of like, but that's actually what presidents do.
Democrats get up and do this conciliatory thing. Republicans never do that. When did Trump ever do that? When did Trump ever do that?
I think you can't.
So why does the Democratic Party have to be conciliatory, and then the Trump people never do that? So what do we do?
We will not use Trump as an example of conciliatory.
Why not?
Why not? Because he was a Republican president.
And he's running again.
Okay, all right. Go back to 8 years of George W. Bush. Did he not offer Republican ideas?
Yes.
Was he Mr. Unity?
I don't think he billed himself as Mr. Unity. He certainly was more.
Oh my God! No. Here's the real deal. Republican. I see it on Fox News all the time.
Right.
Republicans try to go, oh, he called himself Mr. Unity. Right. Every president says, I'm the president for all Americans. That's a unity message. Hold on one second, Melanie Campbell. Hold on, Melanie Campbell.
Thank you. And Roland, basically, you made the point. Some of the points I wanted to make. At the end of the day, this president ran on a platform. And he ran on issues and priorities that people, the majority of the American people voted for him on, including some Republicans, not all for sure. And so I think it would be disingenuous not to, in his State of the Union speech, address some of the key areas I stated in the beginning. I think he should have spoke about voting rights, but he talked about the PRO Act, the right to form a union, those kinds of issues that for Black people in this country who we were able to make it into the middle class through many of those came through unionized jobs. Being part of where we talk about wage stagnation, that comes from not having the ability to have a right to organize and bargain for livable wages. And so I think that in itself I felt that he was very genuine, and I want you to be real. Now, do I agree with everything you say? I think you could have said more and be more direct about the George Floyd justice. That you're going to fight for that no matter what. You talked about it, but you didn't say that the George Floyd bill. I think that was a little miss. But I think it's very important that everything that I got as I sat here and watched along with all of you is that my phone was people, all the kinds of things, and people were like, the speech was strong because he just showed us who Joe Biden is.
That's exactly
right. It was like, go Joe.
That's
right. Show us you got some back. So you be able to stand up. That's what people want to see. Do you have some fight in you? And
exactly. And it was his 2024. And it was his 2024 campaign speech. That's what he needed to do for 2024.
Hold on. Melanie, finish your point.
Any of that, it is like we all can be respectful and disagree. But at the end of the day, the people who voted for him 4 years, 3 or 2.5 years ago, are looking to see whether they want to if he decides to run, whether they're going to vote for him again. And if you ran on a platform, then you need to stand up for that platform. That's right. And especially in a State of the Union address.
Melanie Campbell, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so very much. Lauren Victoria Burt, to Melanie's point, folk wanted to see a fighting Joe Biden, and he was.
He was the old man. He was the old relative giving the lecture to the young kids, staring right at the Republicans. And quite frankly, I'm sitting here shocked. I didn't expect him to be this good. There were moments in there of perfection. That Social Security moment back and forth where he made them get up was perfection.
Exactly.
You could see that they sat there in the White House and they said, you know what? Let's punk their asses. Let's get them standing up when they don't want to stand up. Usually when we watch the State of the Union rolling, it's a laundry list. It's boring. It's the same thing over and over, the same format. Every single president, even Obama, who's gifted speaker, he was given to that sort of format. He broke that. He broke that model tonight. He punked them. He had that rhetorical flourish, as Greg brought up. He would introduce something, he'd step up to the line, and boom, pop them, and then they had to get up. You saw McCarthy get confused several times.
On the Social Security thing, he lost his That's the minute he might have lost his speakership.
I wanted more blackety-black stuff. I wanted more blackety-black. I wanted more details on George Floyd, but I will say, there were a few moments in there of perfection.
Yeah, Eric, I think what was important again because the Republicans have been saying, "Oh, you're lying about the Social Security." When he said no, and then when he said, "Call me, I'll send you the examples." But he said, "There's some of your members who have been saying this," and then then they were like, "No." They went, "Oh, so I guess we're not going to give him Social Security." I mean, he literally baited them into it, and now they're like, "Damn, wait, it's all on camera now."
That's all on camera. And those people, the constituents that they represent, are going to be calling them about that. Joe Biden snatched edges. Period.
He did.
He really did. And I said to Greg, I think he listened to you because that is really what everybody has been pining to see. Even his haters, like, oh shit, like we really do have to compete and run against him. You absolutely do. And that was something that people will have to sit with.
In fact, I want to make this point because the Republicans are against capping insulin, correct?
They are?
Yes.
Well, tonight they are. That was basically a clip speak. In other words, the campaign started tonight, whether he runs or not. When he caught Chip Roy's ass standing up and then froze him there. No, stay there. On the insulin. See, these people, some of y'all, and he was kept looking at, some of y'all got insulin. Some of y'all got diabetes. And he kept making that point. Many people in this room. He's talking to Marjorie Taylor Greene's electorate. He's talking to Chip Roy's electorate. You open traders in this house. We have capped insulin at $35 a dose when it takes them $10 to $13 to make it. And you're going to be on the record, and we're going to run this clip, because most people are not going to watch the State of the Union. That was a series of short bursts, 10 to 30-second clips that they are now going to repackage and make these people own their rejection of their working class.
That's if they know how to do it. Here's the deal. I'm going to break in 30 seconds, but I'm going to say what they have to do, which is what I specifically said to President Obama directly. Do not, if you talk about the point about insulin, don't go to some damn suburb in Ohio or Virginia.
That's right.
What Joe Biden needs to do and what President Biden and Vice President Harris need to do. Go to the brokest,
That's right.
sickest,
That's right.
whitest,
That's right.
highest diabetes county in a red state
Yes.
and tell them y'all are spending $500 a month for insulin.
Right.
And I'm trying to cap it at 35. And your senator and your congressman
right.
is with Big Pharma. Who should you support?
No question.
They have. You have to go to the
That's
belly
right.
of the beast,
Well, and the other one,
and the data is there. Hold on one second.
Okay,
Hold on one second. I'm
Okay.
going to break. We're going to pick it up when we come back. We're also going to talk about police reform and some of the other issues. President Joe Biden's State of the Union speech tonight before Congress. We'll be back on Black Star Network in a moment.
Man. Who could be a
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. An hour of living history with Dr. Richard Mariba Kelsey, thinker, builder, author, and one of the most important and impactful elders in the African American community. He reflects on his full and rich life and shares his incomparable wisdom about our past, present, and future.
African genius is saying that my uncle was a genius, my brother was a genius, my neighbor was a genius. I think we ought to drill that in ourselves and move ahead rather than believing that I got it.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Next on Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach. Listen to this. Women of color are starting 90% of the businesses in this country. That's the good news. The bad news, as a rule, we're not making nearly as much as everyone else. But joining us on the next Get Wealthy episode is Betty Hines. She's a business strategist, and she's showing women how to elevate other women.
I don't like to say this openly, but we're getting better at it. Women struggle with collaborating with each other. And for that reason, one of the things that I demonstrate in the sessions that I have is that you can go further together if you collaborate.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Tate Reeves ain't doing that. Tate Reeves is not doing it in Mississippi. And so what I'm saying is this here. No. What I'm saying is this here. When I listen to Republicans talk about being pro-life, what I want to know is where their pro-life stances when it comes to Head Start. Right. Where their pro-life stances when it comes to prenatal care. Right. Where their pro-life stances when you have black women who have a high rate of dying in childbirth. Where are your pro-life policies when it comes to when it comes to infant mortality? What I'm saying is when you are a Republican in the state of Mississippi and you push a law and the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade and you are ill-prepared to handle the 5,000 new babies, maybe because the money that you could care for the poor went to Brett Favre.
That's right.
And all I want to see is the governor of Mississippi, who's opposing Medicaid expansion, seeing rural hospitals shut down in his state, and you got white women and black women who are dying, and Republicans control the legislature. Yep. They control the governor's mansion, so don't tell me they are pro-life when they are unwilling to accept Medicaid expansion, but then they say we don't want to accept federal money from the federal government when they send $1 to the federal government and they get $4 back.
When you look at this concept, what you're saying to me right now is that because you believe that Republicans are not supporting pro-living, I disagree. I look at the Republican support for community health centers. I look at the Republicans trying
Where?
Everywhere, Roland.
South Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama.
Exactly.
They all are against Medicaid expansion and rural hospitals.
Roland,
Are you telling me rural hospitals? Are you literally telling me that rural hospitals in Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina are not shutting down? Are you actually telling me that?
I am not telling you that. But
So
what
therefore,
I am saying,
if they're shutting down, how then are the people able to get care? How?
Roland, what I am saying is that there are, when we talk about aborting babies, like, so you're saying to me that because we support life, actually giving babies the opportunity to live, I'm confused.
Baby born.
I'm so confused.
No. First of all, hold up. You're confused because you think I'm saying something that I'm not.
Well, tell me what you're saying.
What I'm telling you, I'm being very clear. You cannot say you are pro-life when you vote against prenatal care for the mother. You cannot say you are pro-life when you vote against Head Start. Right. You cannot say you are pro-life when you do not want to expand Medicaid to keep hospitals open. You cannot say you are pro-life when you have OBGYNs who are not available in your state. You cannot say you are pro-life when you have black women who are dying at a higher rate during childbirth and you do nothing public policy-wise to fix it. You cannot say you are pro-life if you allow infant mortality rates to be sky high in areas where there are black and brown people. What that tells me is you are anti-abortion. You are not pro-life.
Right.
Because if you are pro-life, you care about the child in the womb and when the child is out. And if you are pro-life, you are standing there with black folks when their kids are killed by cops. You are not silent. So if you are pro-life, be pro-life from the womb to the tomb, but not just in the womb.
Okay, and so Roland, what I say is that I am pro-life.
No, you are.
No,
but
I am.
not Governor Tate Reeves, not Governor Lee of Tennessee, not the Republican legislature in North Carolina, not Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, not Governor Kemp in Georgia. No, here's the deal though.
Okay,
you
let
are.
me ask you this.
But show me where your Republican politicians
are
pro-life in their policies.
Let me ask you this.
You know what I am? I'm pro-black, and I'm going to call out anybody who call themselves pro-life, but their policies are not.
And I am pro-life. Let me ask you this. Are you?
Call your party.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Call your party.
Can I, Roland,
Call your party.
Can I ask you this? Are
Call
you?
your party.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Call your party.
Can I ask you this?
Go ahead.
Are you pro-life?
I'm pro-life when that black person is killed, and when a Republican.
So let me ask you this.
No.
Right.
When a Republican says nothing when somebody is gunned down, don't
use extremes. Republicans do say things when people are gunned down. No, Roland, you can't do that.
No, they don't.
Roland, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry. Those are the same folks who send out MLK quotes on MLK Day.
Oh my goodness.
But will not support MLK's
Is my mic
agenda.
on? Can you hear me? Okay, so Roland.
I'm not.
No, Roland.
You can try this all you want to, Tina, but you know the record is clear.
Oh my goodness.
Your party refuses to accept the Affordable Care Act.
Can I ask a couple?
Come on,
we're going to talk about the State of the Union, I suppose, but can I ask a couple of questions about
And every single one of those Republicans stood up for Tyree Nichols' family.
I don't know how this is dialogue.
For police reform.
I don't know how this is dialogue.
No, Dina.
Okay,
Dina,
so
Okay,
can I?
I mean, when we got a massive shooting, I don't hear any Republicans talking about any gun. You know, they're wearing their guns on their lapels. Dina, is that pro-life? Is that pro-life? Uzi on
I think that is pro-2A. But let me.
I'm sorry. What's that?
McCarthy clearly was
What I want to. What I want to say, no one's. I have a chance. First of all, I want to have a conversation about if Republicans are not. Roland, you haven't given me a chance.
Are we gonna have a conversation?
Oh my goodness! If this is actually going to give me a chance to speak, then I will speak.
You can ask me about being pro-life, about being pro-choice.
Oh my goodness!
What I know is fact.
Oh my goodness!
As a native Texan, what I see from Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, the Republican legislature, what I see are folks who are pushing anti-abortion bills, not pro-life bills. Because if you telling me you pro-life, you better be pro-life in a whole bunch of areas beyond a woman's uterus. That's the point. That's the point that I am
And when
making.
you look at
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Exactly.
they're not pro-life, they're pro-controlling women. That's what it
Yeah,
okay,
that's
right. Or forced birth. I was at HHS when the Affordable Care Act was passed. I worked on implementation. Medicaid expansion was up, and no Republican would expand it. Here we are in 2023. That was 2010. 13 years have gone by.
Republicans have consistently voted to expand support for community health. This is Roland. No.
I'm coming back to you.
Oh my
I
goodness.
want her to finish.
Okay.
Because she actually worked there. So
Okay.
finish your point. Since you worked there. Hold on, Bill. Finish your point.
I don't understand how this.
I'm going to let the person who worked there tell us what happened when she worked there.
I worked in intergovernmental affairs with the governors. There was full resistance from Republican governors to expand Medicaid. And to your point earlier, they actually got money from us to expand health services in primarily red states. They wouldn't take it because they didn't want to be known as taking money from President Barack Obama. So if you can say, you're going to say you're pro-life, but you're going to let your community health centers fall, you're going to let women die, forcing them to give birth, drugs are going up, and you just didn't care. Now, they tried to make it a partisan issue, but it was about health care. And to your point earlier, the Affordable Care Act actually did benefit half those people in that audience.
Right. And Republicans have consistently...
It helped primarily black people get access to health care.
Okay,
And
Bill
that is why
and
it was
Dina.
an issue.
Bill and Dina.
Okay.
You're going to talk, Dina. Dina, you're going to talk. But Bill's going to talk.
But they went further. The act also said the states will set up exchanges so that people can buy health care. A Republican idea that people are supposed to buy their own.
Massachusetts by Republican governors, correct.
They refused
They
to set
refused
up
to
the
do it.
exchanges.
Yes.
So the exchanges had to be set up by you.
Yes, which was also difficult, as you all may remember. But we recovered. And then the issue was, it was considered, what was the word that they would say? Like, it was weird. It wasn't, it wasn't real healthcare. It was fake plans. And they did that with red states and states out west with many Latinos who needed healthcare as well. And it was very interesting how up here in the Northeast, we all had healthcare. We had really good plans to choose from. When you went south, you didn't. And our people continue to suffer. Republican governors just turned away. And we tried our best to make sure we got people enrolled in health insurance.
And this is one of the points Biden mentioned tonight in his speech.
He did.
Republicans have consistently been in support of expanding support to community health centers. So you're saying that when you were at HHS,
Absolutely not. When Barack Obama was president, they wouldn't do anything Barack Obama wanted to do. Are you kidding?
Republicans. So legislation to support community health centers was
That was a key part of the act.
okay. Well,
A key part of the act were the community health centers, and I was at the Department of Labor at the time, and a key component was to train people for those health centers, and including training people. This was in the law.
Okay.
We worked on this.
Hold on, I'm confused.
Let me just say this.
I'm confused. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm confused to have two people
That were there.
the law.
They were there.
And you saying
Present.
that ain't true. I'm real confused.
I am as well. No, I am
present.
I'm confused as well.
Last point. So to your question about, or your statement about Republicans caring. So when we left, when Obama left office, when our administration left, there were many people in our departments that were specifically designed to implement the Affordable Care Act. They all had to get removed. They all moved to different offices. And absolutely. Many of my friends, people who are career,
This is when Trump came in.
When Trump came in, yes, sorry, thank you, I did not make that point. When Trump came in, we don't need to continue that work.
And remember, they stopped even advertising, signing up for the Affordable Care Act.
Yes, it was very low key, and my former colleagues and friends, they were miserable because they couldn't actually do the work that they were.
So now I'm trying to understand.
If
they're telling you they turned the money down for Medicaid expansion, they turned the money down for community health centers, what are you talking about? The GOP supports it.
I'm talking
Is it in utopia?
No, I'm talking about very specifically, and this is what, like, I don't want to speak to things that you clearly worked there and you have an expertise and a knowledge that I don't have. But what I will say is that what I want to understand, and we will post this because we're Black Press as well. So at bpalivewire.com, I respect you, and you clearly you've worked there. But what I want to understand is, when Republicans made these overtures to not accept this money, I want to understand, because we always have areas where you accept it and something else. Like, we want to make sure that there's a standalone, that Republicans can support community health centers without the stipulations. And I don't so all of these, I don't know. So all these years that I have been even as I sit and meet with legislators and they talk about the 13,000 community health centers that are championed, instead of organizations like Planned Parenthood give the money to community health centers. So if I have been Planned Parenthood is not.
Planned Parenthood is a community health center.
Planned Parenthood is a community
service they provide, but they do health screenings. They do.
But the greatest proportion. No, wait a minute, Roland. You're gonna have to Roland.
Hold up.
You okay, Dom?
Now let's be real clear.
This is your show. I get it.
Let's be real clear. I am not the one to say no to.
Okay.
Now I'm letting different folks talk, but never tell me no. So when you're talking about community centers, okay?
I can understand.
You were speaking about, which is totally different than what she's talking about, and again, we're talking about what Bill is talking about. The resources that were in there. When you say, oh, we don't want stipulations, that's the whole point. So what you're trying to say is, oh, just give us that little piece we want right there and nothing else. But here's the reality. That ain't how Congress operates. The reality is, this is not the unrestricted funds of COVID, like Biden talked about. This is looking at the health of the people in that state holistically and universally, and not just what y'all like.
Dina, let's get real. The Republican Party was against the Affordable Care Act.
Period.
Well, of course.
We want to play these
No, I'm not going to say that. Who did I ever say that they were not?
And we saw tonight they are against lowering prescription drugs.
I never said that the Republicans.
That's where we were. About pro-choice and pro-life and pro-health. I mean, how is that pro-life?
Let's deal with this here. Back tonight. Again, explain to me. I still want to know. Why is the Republican Party against lowering prescription drugs?
I don't think that the Republican Party is against lowering prescription. I think that the question is, how are we going to pay for it?
Right. But this is a great point.
Again,
this is the great point.
Greg,
I'm just going to say this real quick. He was speaking there tonight, but he's really putting in the clips for the war over the next 24 months. Let me be very specific.
Right.
When he first, and me and Eric were laughing about this, whoever wrote that section in there on those junk fees needs a raise.
Yeah.
See, what's going to happen is, imagine this, there's going to be a 2-minute ad with people frustrated at the airport checkout line, with people looking at their cable bill, because he don't know a damn thing about paying no cable bill. But he's talking to very targeted, it's almost like micro-targeting voters. He didn't spend a lot of time on the culture wars, abortion and all that, because that's not going to poll well. But what he seeded in there, the class warfare he snuck in there, when it comes to quadrupling the taxes on the stock buybacks, was for a commercial on rising gas prices. Because they're going to see somebody at the pump, somebody word, and then Joe Biden's voice going to come in and say that I am going to tax the people who he's giving
$200 billion in profits.
Exactly. He's making commercials. Finally, I'll end with this, because it was a speech, but most people don't watch this. When they're not into policy like this, they're going to watch the commercials that come out over the next 12 months. I'll end with this. I think it's very important. The dignity of work. He kept coming back with that. Who he's talking to is the people who are going to vote. The reason that he's not trying to expand the base now, because Joe Biden and his advisors know very clearly that most people in this country have checked out. They are micro-targeting to win primaries, to win the general election. And guess what? he did not say a word about how he's going to pay for it in terms of dollars.
No, he did.
Right?
No, but he did.
But I'm saying, go ahead.
but he did.
Explain that, because I was about to say.
Wait. I'm going to
But
a
let
break.
the economist
Hold
tell
up,
it.
I'm going to a break. We come back. Bill, you're going to explain that part about how he said he's going to pay for it. I know that Cliff Albright, Reddit Hudson, Tiffany Lofton, we got them on as well. We're going to talk about, again, the police reform aspect of it, the most emotional moment of the night when we introduced Tyree Nichols' family. So a lot more to cover it. I told y'all, Jake Tapper can't do this.
No.
Rachel Maddow them, they ain't having this conversation. And so this the conversation that we all had growing up in black families where we kept it real and we kept it honest. But here's the deal, because my grandparents taught me, bring your ass to the conversation, start lying, you're gonna get eaten up. So they told us, don't come in here selling wolf tickets because it ain't gonna play. So we gonna keep having this debate. I gotta go to a break. We gotta pay some bills, girl. But it's called paying some bills. Your mom, an executive producer, she know how this works. You gotta pay some bills. So think about that pound cake. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. It's special. State of the Union post coverage. Back in a moment. That's fine. That's fine.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
All right, we're back with our post. They have the Union coverage on the Black Star Network. Bill, you want to make a point about what Biden's talked about in his speech economically, how he was going to pay for things. Go.
Well, this is what I thought that he did very well. He led with a clear statement, I'm going to lay out my fiscal plan. And he said, by the way, it's going to reduce the deficit.
That's right.
So he's telling you up front, I'm paying for what I'm going to propose. I am going to reduce the deficit. This is very important for the current craziness we have over the debt ceiling, which is different than the deficit. So it's already the case that federal spending is declining because this was already designed in the budget he laid out from the very beginning back after he got elected.
Right.
Yes, we were going to spend more in 2022 to make sure we would recover the economy, but immediately in 2023, spending collapses. We have cut spending at a faster rate than when we demobilized from Vietnam.
He also said in the speech, when he said that by having the freedom to now negotiate prescription drug prices,
Right.
that is going, he said, because if they're now buying drugs cheaper,
Right.
that's going to lower how much we're spending, which lowers the deficit. So therefore, how can you be against negotiating prescription drug prices?
Yes, these were excellent points he raised, that a lot of the things that he's proposing cut the deficit. And this is what he did in the Inflation Reduction Act when we came up with cutting these drug prices. But what he also did, we talked about him calling them on Social Security, was to freeze them because they wanted to have an esoteric conversation about the debt limit. Let's be clear again about what the crisis is. The debt limit is the accumulation of all the deficits, including when that House, many members of that House, voted the biggest tax cut for the richest people on the planet who ever lived on this planet.
That's right.
That's included in the debt. And the point of the debt is y'all already had that vote. You agreed to it. It got signed by a president. It's the law. You agreed this was going to be the debt. That's like you going to the store, pulling out your credit card. Done deal. You already pulled out the credit card. It's too late to argue about, I don't want to pay it. It's too late to say, well, going forward.
Exactly.
And Bill, who
It's a done
do
deal.
the people who pay the credit, who do they owe? Who does the government owe?
We owe the world.
Exactly,
Because
including China, which is the point he was making on the domestic.
Well, yeah, but let's be clear. The United States has a unique position because we have never, ever defaulted on our debt.
Right.
This is the argument that Hamilton had with Jefferson.
Absolutely. Strong central bank or central finance?
Well, no, it was the issue over would we act as a nation to pay off the Revolutionary War debt, or were we going to tell the world, well, that was New York. Well, that was Massachusetts.
Right.
Well,
That's what I
that
meant.
was Virginia.
Strong central
And so,
bank, yeah.
so a strong nation, a strong currency, we've never defaulted. Even after the British burned the Library of Congress, the U.S. Capitol, and the White House to the ground,
That's right.
we repaid the debt.
That's right.
Never, ever in our history, even the Civil War when half the country bolted,
That's right.
and we ran up the biggest debt we had ever done to beat them,
That's right.
we repaid that debt. So we've never defaulted, which is why people hold a U.S. Treasury note. As much as people say, you know, these other countries are older than, they are not. Germany is a creation of the 19th century. Italy is a creation in the 19th century. There is no currency older than the United States dollar than the British pound. Those are the two oldest currencies. Our currency in its whole history has never been defaulted. So central banks around the world hold U.S. Treasury notes because it's a sure bet.
And so what he's saying is, don't play games.
Exactly.
You cannot play games with
exactly
that.
what he's
You
saying.
cannot play games with that. And so he froze them.
That's right.
By saying on two things.
And also
One,
reminded them that they passed the Trump tax cuts, which contributed to 25% of
that debt.
Yes, precisely. And they can't say they didn't.
Exactly. And so what he did was he said, my budget is going to reduce the deficit. And by the way, I keep hearing the way that y'all want to do this is you want to cut Social Security, and he just shut them up on that because now they're confronted with, oh, this is not popular. Right. We don't want to say that. Do not accuse us of that. Right. And the reality is that none of them understand how they could possibly do what they think they could do unless they did that. So now it's like, okay, so he's going to cut the deficit in his budget. He's taxing people that nobody likes.
Right.
He talked about the stock buybacks.
That was very interesting. That's as close as he got to Bernie Sanders when he started talking about that group of billionaires that ain't paying nothing. And then 15%, and then he used the white equivalent of bless their heart. God bless them.
And also said triple the taxes on the stock buybacks.
That's what Bill's talking about.
Because well, on all companies, because the reality is, when you look at what happened, even when they had the tax cut, Trump and his people kept saying, "Oh, these companies are going to reinvest in the American worker," and the CEOs were like, "No, we're not." Straight, they're like, "No, we're not." Go.
I just want to also say that one of the ways that the Biden administration has proposed to pay for some of these things, like he mentioned, to find tax cheats, right, to people who are skimping on their taxes, and you would think that those would be the people who are wealthy. Well, the things that he's not mentioned, the proposals that he's not mentioned, are things like his plan to trigger a 1099-K for people who are in the gig economy who sell something for over $600. Now, that has been, the IRS would actually trigger a 1099-K if you sell your sofa. Previously, that barrier was at $20,000, and maybe $20,000 is too much, but certainly he's not attacking the tax cheats at $600,000.
Okay,
Just wait a minute.
But if you're gonna mention that, you then got to mention, what did the IRS do?
They're still trying to push it.
No. What did the IRS do?
Right now, it's on hold because of opposition.
No. But is it on hold?
It is on hold.
Okay, but my point is, Dina, Dina, if you're gonna bring something up, you got to bring up what they actually did, so the people who are watching and listening are going, what did they actually do?
Let it be fully clear.
But let me just, so it's on hold, but it is still a part of his plan. It is still something that he wants to do.
This is not about.
It is very much about.
This is not about little man on the street.
It is $600
Okay, all right, okay.
It means you will have to pay.
It is about.
Oh, 1 second. So, Bill, you say it's not about that. Explain.
No, because it means, yes, you will not have to pay tax on that, which you're supposed to. But what he really did was increase the size of the IRS back to its former size, so that people like Donald Trump don't get off free.
Or the Citadel's Ken Griffin, who based on ProPublica's reporting, spent $11 million fighting the IRS to keep them from actually looking into the taxes of the rich. But Dina, if you're going to mention the IRS, can you mention? Hold up, Dina. Okay, how about this here, Dina? Should we go after the mega rich who cheat?
Yes, but we should not go. But this particular
proposal. This does not go after somebody who is.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not. Because it makes sure that all transactions are treated fairly. And so for the person who is downstairs working in that restaurant and gets paid a little bit of money, who has to pay their tax, they want to know, why does somebody driving an Uber not have to pay tax? They want to know, why isn't the playing field fair? If I got to show up to work, they show up to work, but then they don't pay tax.
So let me do 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Hold on one second.
Compared to what's going on.
Okay, 1 second.
Do not divert.
Right.
For
1 second. First of all,
working class people, with the fact that Donald Trump was found guilty, his company was found guilty of cheating on taxes and didn't get audited.
All right, so here's what I'm doing. First of all, I'm putting a pin in this conversation. One of my guests has to leave in a second. I do want to talk about police reform. Reddit Hudson.
Talk about immigration?
No, we ain't talking about immigration. Reddit Hudson leads a police accountability group. So we're going to talk about police accountability. So I know that. So that's what we're going to talk about. Reddit Hudson. The emotional moment of the night, he obviously brings up Tyre Nichols' family. Frankly, he was persuasive. He gave emotion, talked about the talk. But as far as I'm concerned, it was absolutely weak when it came to laying out police reform. He literally said, let's do something. And then segued to Uvalde. So he got the emotional piece, but no, I wanted to hear something stronger when it came to police reform. Your assessment of that part of the speech.
I don't disagree. I think that I'm desensitized, brother, at this point when it comes to presidents or any elected officials commending another black mother for her grace and courage in the aftermath of her child being murdered. The one part of his speech that resonated at all with me is the accountability part. That is the remedy. There is no, to my mind at this point, legislative remedy that can pass. No Republican is going to vote for police reform, as you pointed out earlier. That's right. So the remedy is accountability. And it is the best training, as I've said before. Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. The best training for new Minneapolis police officers is Derek Chauvin spending much of the rest of his life in prison. The best training for new Memphis police officers will be these brothers spending much of the rest of their lives in prison for the murder of Tyree Nichols. I do wish that someone would recognize the fact that we've been here so many times before. It struck me that somebody pointed out that members of the Congressional Black Caucus were wearing pins that had 1870 on them, commemorating the year that the first free black man was murdered by police in America. That was over 150 years ago. This conversation, it's hard to even enter it without understanding that the change that needs to happen systemically, because look, what you saw those brothers do to Tyree Nichols, to my mind, is what you see when black officers both internalize and align themselves with police culture, which itself is rooted in white supremacy. Police culture eats police training for breakfast every day.
Damn.
All
That's
day.
it right there.
What we need is people, and Roland, I sent you something. I want you to look at it when you get a chance. It's a press conference that had me, Dr. DeLacy Davis, who you know, Cheryl Dorsey was on, Rochelle Bilal, Black Philadelphia Sheriff, talking about, from our perspective, what needs to happen in law enforcement so that we can see the kinds of changes that are required at this point, because it's very difficult. I think contextually, I agree with the panel that you've had on tonight. Overall, great State of the Union speech, but in that space right there, I don't know what a president.
I think Reddit froze.
Test redundancy.
Cliff Albright. This is where this president has to be pushed, and this is where folks have got to show up and protest and make demands. This is where civil rights organizations can't just be happy. I'm sorry, let me be real clear. Legacy civil rights organizations, because they purposely freeze groups like you and Until Freedom and the Poor People's Campaign out of those meetings because they don't want y'all in the meetings. Yes, I said that. So to all of the legacy civil rights groups, they don't want Black Voters Matter or Until Freedom or the Poor People's Campaign at the table. That's why they say legacy civil rights groups. The president has to be pushed to be more aggressive, and he must lean in like he did for the infrastructure bill, Cliff.
Yeah, first, let me start off with the good news, right? Clearly Pop took his vitamins today.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure that he could stand for more than an hour, let alone give an energetic speech for more than an hour. So I will give him a little props just in terms of, the overall effectiveness of the speech. And a couple of moments in particular, the Social Security moment clearly stands out because he did a masterful job of cornering the Republicans, or letting them corner themselves. But to your point, right, and this is important because this is the nexus between that last issue that you were talking about, which was the police reform, and the issue that I was listening most closely for, which was on voting rights. He saved democracy till the very end. He talked about the importance of democracy, right? But he didn't actually say voting rights. He didn't say anything about voting rights legislation, right?
Oh, it was quick. It was quick.
Right, it was quick. And if you look at every other issue that he talked about, right, he talked about all the economic stuff, and on all those economic things, he had some policy. He had the tax policy. He has the junk fees policy. He talked about the violence, and he talked about this ban assault rifle, right? He said ban them now, right? He talked about the tax on the wealthy. He even talked about abortion. And so you can't just say that he only proposed legislation on things that he thinks he can actually get passed, because clearly he knows in that Congress that ain't nothing really moving on abortion. There ain't nothing moving on that rifle ban.
In fact, Cliff, I'm gonna read it. We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. In America, we must protect the right to vote, not suppress that fundamental right.
That's right. That's right. And so that would have been a good spot to say, therefore, pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, right? He doesn't go that far on that point, the same way that he talked about, and he pointed out the Tyree Nichols family, but he didn't actually say, he said, let's do something, right?
And then later he goes, democracy must not be a partisan issue, it must be an American issue. Hell, but not when you're trying to keep folks from voting.
Exactly. And so we needed to hear him say something very specific, the same way he was specific on all the other things. And I support those other things. Everything he talked about, I support. There were times when he sounded more like Bernie Sanders than Joe Biden.
Right.
And I support that, right? But you gotta come with it on voting rights and on police reform the same way you get specific on all those other issues. And that's what he did not do tonight.
Cliff, hold tight for a second. Going to a quick break. Tiffany Lofton, we're coming back to you as soon as we come back. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, an hour on the Black Star Network, our post coverage of President Biden's 2023 State of the Union address back in 2 minutes.
The 54th NAACP Image Awards is airing live on February 25th, honoring outstanding performances in film, television, theater, music, and literature. But this year, Roland Martin Unfiltered is nominated for Outstanding News or Information Series or Special. To vote, head to NAACPImageAwards.net, scroll down to Outstanding News/Information Series, select the category. You have to click on hashtag Roland Martin Unfiltered Black Votes Matter Election Night Coverage. To submit your vote, you will need an email. Only one vote allowed per email. Voting ends on February 10th at 9 p.m. Vote today.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
People who before you didn't have to, and that's what they don't want to do. All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered, our special coverage of 2023 State of the Union speech. Tiffany Lofton, activist, normally somewhere doing headstands. She joins us right now. Yeah, I said it. Tiffany, you sent me a couple of text messages. Your assessment of tonight's speech.
I'll agree with everybody else in terms of his hair was slicked back today. The makeup was on point. He definitely rehearsed that speech plenty of times and did a really great job of managing his breath during the speech. I was thankful that he was able to make it 72 minutes for the State of the Union. I disagree with my brother Cliff. Bernie Sanders would have never said I am a capitalist, so this gave me nothing towards Bernie vibes. I voted for Bernie twice. I was extremely bothered to the panelists who spoke before me. Joe Biden did a lot of things tonight where he covered the basis of who he needed to talk to prepare for the next election cycle. Everybody heard what they wanted to hear because he mentioned it. He might have said the agenda. He might have said the issue area. He might have even said the problem. But I didn't really hear too many solutions from Joe Biden today. And that's what I think young people, millennials, Generation Z are looking for a president to do. It's not just to say, here are all the things that we are concerned about and that are on the election, that are on the ballot. But here are the things and how we're going to fix it. And he said our democracy is really strong. He said, I quote, because I have a script here in case anybody wants to fight me. He said, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It is exploitation. And I said, well, damn. That was the most colorblind statement I think I've heard from a president on the State of the Union, because we've been talking about reparations and black people. And if we don't have equal footing, if we don't have access to the same resources or wealth that many of our enslaved brothers and sisters, enslaver brothers and sisters put us in the position for, then how can we have a positive capitalism that Joe Biden is talking about he enjoys running this country under? Young people wanted to hear about climate change. They wanted to hear about education, and he whispered student debt. We're still waiting. By the way, if you're in D.C. or in the surrounding areas, please join us February 28th, where the Supreme Court will be hearing the oral arguments. We'll be out there rallying at 11 a.m. You can meet us there. And we heard him whisper about police. There was no solution. He did, however, do something really important that I had to text my comrades in the movement about. This is what he did. He said that we have to work on training for police officers, which is the same narrative that we hear all the time, even though all of us know statistically and data-wise, it does not work at all. Training is not what stops and keeps black people safe. Definitely doesn't help police officers in the moment. And he said we needed to fund and invest in first responders and other professionals. He said it in his speech. First responders and other professionals. And I said, well, by golly gee. This is the same president at the last State of the Union that said he was going to put 100,000 more police officers in the streets. It is coming from the person who was president, who was vice president, under an alumni president who said, stop saying defund the police to activists and organizers across the country. Yet here we heard a small confession. And I texted you, Roland, and I said, defund the police was right on time and also ahead of its time. Because defund the police, the slogan, scared everybody that benefited from the deaths of black bodies. It benefits from police brutality. They didn't want to support defund the police. But tonight we did hear Joe Biden say, the president of the United States of America say, that he wanted to invest in first responders and other professionals. And that is all defund the police had been calling for this entire time. In Los Angeles, where I am currently standing, where I live, 18% of our budget goes to LAPD. And tonight he said, let's raise the pay for teachers. Let's cancel the student debt. He gave a little bit of if you want to do college, you can. If you don't want to do college, you don't have to. And we can talk about on a different day the state of education in this country. That does bother and scare me a little bit as somebody who went to college and graduated and has $22,000 of student loan debt. But we heard democracy and no voting rights. And I heard nothing about the cost of living and the cost of rent in this country. And Gen Z and millennials are pressed up against not making enough money with fair wages, not having enough union jobs in this country, and paying too much in the rent and too much in the gas and simple daily things. I understand that we need to talk about Social Security and insulin. My father right now, who is experiencing heart failure and kidney disease, right now I am his sole caretaker. I know how important insulin is to my father. I also know how important dialysis is, and right now he needs transportation, and he has health insurance and Medicare, and neither one of them cover his transportation. So we're in a pickle. But I want Joe Biden to address solutions, not just name or drop the key words that get people excited on social media and Twitter. And when we come to the next election cycle, I told my friend, they said Joe Biden has people's support because he has been helping black people. And I said, he only has their support because we have a lack of options. And when we get more options, the Democratic Party but ought to be afraid. Well, so that's all I wanted to say.
So we were in the break, and I said this to Greg. And this is what I need folk to understand, and that is when we look at this particular speech and we're talking about issues and what was talked about, and I'm gonna go to you first on this one, and that is when you look at the numbers, Joe Biden will be 82 next year. So as you keep going to 2023, 2024, the group that is hardcore, we know black voters are number 1 and number 2 for Democrats. Black women 1, black men 2. But the group that's the number 1 is 65 plus, but they self-identify. As you go 55 plus, fewer self-identify, 45, 35, you get 18 to 35. So the problem that they have is that the old structure no longer is actually being dismantled. It used to be, we can hit these black churches, we can go to them in August, we can go to these black preachers, get their endorsements, congregations will follow the preacher. Well, what a church is experiencing, dramatic drop in membership. And so what's happening is, and these white Democratic consultants are completely unprepared for this. Yes. You now have to go after black people the same way radio stations, TV stations, everyone else, you now have to micro-target. So what they're not used to is having to market to Bill separately from Lauren separate from Tiffany separate from Greg. They're not used to having to market specifically to black women. They've been ignoring black men. Oh, now I got to market to black men. Yep. And so what you're seeing, and the numbers didn't lie. You saw a dramatic drop-off of black turnout in South Carolina in the last election. That's right. You have seen a dramatic drop-off in turnout in Miami-Dade County, in Broward there in Florida. Milwaukee had a drop of 50,000. And let me be clear, and Cliff knows this here, voter suppression, closing down polling locations, voter ID, the efforts of Ron DeSantis, Republican governor of Florida, specifically sicking police on formerly incarcerated people, and the charges were dropped. It was done to scare them from voting. That's just a fundamental fact. DeSantis did that, and judges were throwing those cases out. What they're going to have to do is understand, if you don't do what Tiffany's talking about, then he's not going to vote. Yeah. And his margins were narrow in 2020. Yeah. He only won Georgia by 12,000 votes. Look at Arizona as well. And so Trump not on the ballot, it's a whole different deal. You're looking at where it's being completely flipped. They are going to have to know how to talk to black people in a different way, and they're failing at actually doing that.
Most definitely, and I feel like they also would not have avoided this red wave if it wasn't for Roe v. Wade and people being so frustrated at that. So I feel like Democrats kind of got lucky in this last election because people were so upset with that. When you look at these young people, they're not watching CNN or MSNBC. I'm teaching my students at American University. They're not following the platforms that we're used to. And so when we're going into this next election, you got a whole bunch of new voters that are going to be coming out in the next 2 years. What are Democrats doing to reach them? And it goes to your point you made when we first started about the labor thing with Kamala Harris. You know, what are they doing to promote this stuff? Because young folks aren't going to the White House feed on Twitter to see what's going on. So are you out there in the social media space? Are you out there hitting people on their phones? If you're not doing these things, going by that old school method, and there's no Republican, sabotage of themselves like what happened with this last time that led to the red wave being avoided, 2024 is not a guarantee.
Reese, the thing that I have consistently said, I said this in 2020, I said the moment Biden was inaugurated, I said they better start focusing on the midterms right now. They didn't. And so, look, you could say his speech tonight was the beginning of the campaign. What they should be doing right now, after this speech, they should be holding town halls. They should be having conversations, laying out, this is what we've done. If they try to wait until August of 2024 or September and October, you're playing with fire. And again, if it's DeSantis or somebody who's not Trump, you're going to lose.
Yes. However, I think this conversation kind of still doesn't acknowledge the fact that they have done all that. There is a messaging issue because they're up against a very well-funded, organized disinformation machine that is micro-targeting black voters. They did a study of this in the UK right before 2020, where they showed how through WhatsApp, for instance, WhatsApp is a communication channel that a lot of non-English speakers that they use. And so there were memes disseminating through that, talking about socialism, this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
I don't think that there's a lack of work being done. I think that there's a lack of understanding the scale and scope and relentlessness that they're up against that seeks to erase it. One of the ways they seek to erase it is to marginalize and erase Vice President Kamala Harris, who 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago had a summit of Black men at the White House, for instance, who last week was doing lead pipe groundbreaking things.
Who did they call beforehand?
Listen, I'm only.
No, I'm just no. Hold on, I'm sorry. No, wait. Hold up. Let me take the earpiece out. They had a summit on Black men.
Roland, the Howard basketball
team was.
I didn't even know about it.
They were down there with the vice president.
Thank you. Listen,
hold up. They had a summit on Black men.
Yes. Well, they had a summit where Vice President Kamala Harris had a conversation with young black men.
Did it occur to them to tell any Black men in media?
Listen, I just want to give space because we give plenty of space to what people's perceptions of what's not being done.
Yes.
I just want to give some space.
That's a good point.
There is legitimate criticism that I'm very vocal of myself of how to message and get the communication out there. And I've said it. I said during the midterm.
You sure
I
did.
said you need to invest because it's not going to happen organically.
I'm literally sitting here like, damn, really? Because what you're laying out. Look, we've probably done more than any show in America on the amazing things that Kristen Clark is doing in the Department of Justice.
Exactly.
And I've said to the White House, why in the hell are y'all not discussing that from the podium? The wardens they are putting in jail, the officers they're putting in jail, the people who they're found guilty and going to send to prison for hate crimes. Now doing that, and again, I totally get the well-funded machine, but here's the deal. They've now known for a decade that exists.
Exactly.
If you ain't figured out how to counter it by now, what the hell are you doing? And maybe the problem is because the white consultants keep pouring all the money in damn TV ads.
This is true.
As opposed to creating mechanisms to counter that. Or what also needs to happen, Biden should be calling some Democratic billionaires and saying, you know what the Republican billionaires are doing? Funding alternative media, where y'all sitting here doing animation and playing with entertainment. I gotta go to a quick break. When we come back, final comments. And so let me know how much time we got back. Everybody's gonna get a comment. And trust me, you go over your time, I'm gonna hit you with an We'll be back on the Black Star Network in a moment.
Most people think that these television shows that tell stories about who we are as Black men, and then they paint these monolithic portraits of us. They think that they're being painted by white people. And I gotta tell you, there are a whole bunch of Black folk that are the creators, the head writers, the directors of all of these shows, and that are still painting us as monoliths. The people don't really want to have this conversation.
No, they don't. When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. All hell, Black people at his house. right, folks, we got 10 minutes before we go to the end of the show. Each person is going to get to say something. I got the clock. If you go long, I'm shutting you down. Erica, you first. Go.
Good news. One of the things that President Biden says that we're not bystanders in history. So it's something I say on the show all the time. We need to be checking our voter registration. We all have something to lose. And there was good news in that speech for veterans, people who definitely protect this country 24/7.
Ready, Hudson?
I wanted to chime in with the sister from Los Angeles. If we want to really address some of the issues we see relative to crime in our communities, it's about funding public education, health care, livable wages, and putting communities in a position of stability so that we don't have to engage with officers so much.
Got it. Lauren?
You stole my thunder there about Kamala Harris. It's Anita Dunn. It's Anita Dunn being against voting rights and Kamala Harris. And that is a serious thing because Anita Dunn was head of SKDK. She knows how to control the machinery of the media. That's why we're getting negative piece after negative piece on Kamala Harris. Just not a secret. The other thing is that, you know, Joe Biden is the right man at the right time at the wrong age. He is 80 years old. He is showing his age. We're seeing flecks of it already, and at some point there's got to be a family discussion about it because I think in 2 years it just gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And that's why the Kamala thing is a very big deal because they know it. Team Biden knows it. And can he hang on? Can he beat somebody younger? Does it set up some sort of McCain-Obama type look if you get DeSantis in there versus an 82-year-old man? You got to think about all that. And the obvious alternative is Kamala Harris. So one thing I will say, I do agree with our resident Republican here on a few things here. I was sort of disappointed he didn't go into groceries and gasoline a little bit more tonight. Just practical things that people do think about.
Right.
But quite frankly, I thought it was a lot better than I ever dreamt. I mean, he was great out there in a lot of ways.
Tiffany.
Join us February 28th at the Supreme Court, where we're listening to the oral arguments. Joe Biden, at the end of the day, has the sole power to cancel student loan debt, and he can do more than what he said he can actually do. So we are looking forward to swift action from the White House after that happens and after the Supreme Court acknowledges and says their determination. I also want to say that we should support Black media 100% because I have never seen a conversation like this, and I've been on for a very long time on the West Coast watching y'all debate these really important topics, and our people want to have these discussions. And I usually tell people to find a political home. But if they can't find a political home in their town or their city, they're going to go on their phones and they're going to watch this show. And this is where they're going to get their education and their information from. And I think you all, everybody in the room, did a great, actually take that back. Most of y'all in the room did a really good job tonight. So good to see y'all.
Thanks a bunch. I'm a Congo.
This is the time for all of us in our community to double down our efforts now. All of the things we said we weren't satisfied with Biden about tonight, that he didn't spend enough time on voting rights, police reform, we need to hit him hard. We can't wait till beginning of 2024 or whatever. We can't, there's no election going on right now. So we gotta hit him hard, whether it's through our media, whether it's through our politicians, our grassroots organizations. It's a now or never mentality. If we push him harder, we're going to get what we want. So we can't give up right now.
Tamia?
Well, I will say that, as the kids say, he did flex tonight. I was also disappointed that he didn't go deeper on police violence. The other thing I want to say, too, though, is when we talk about engaging Black voters, last cycle, I had a couple of clients who all won. They were all Black candidates. And the important thing, and they did not all represent all Black districts. The important thing to remember is that when we're looking at candidates, we actually have to make sure they are connected to the community, and we have to build campaigns that reflect what the community looks like. To your point, Black consultants that look like the candidate and can guide the candidate the way that they should go in this process. So I think it's very important for us to stay engaged and active and hold our leaders accountable. And like you said, I was going to say the same thing, making sure that we are advocates and we stay active with our president and what's happening in 24.
Bill?
Well, I was very pleased with him on the economy. He did mention issues of affordable housing, the problem that seniors have with housing. He can't do it all in a speech. He can't lay out all the legislation. So I was happy that he touched on most of the key economic issues. I do think that we have a big problem. The media was so quick to sop up a Republican complaint about him and then change the cycle. He does have to figure out a better way to control the news cycle, to be more assertive. We were also happy when we woke up and found out I do not have to hear this idiot as president. But now the president seems not present as much. And so now that we have a president I actually want to hear from, they do need a strategy to make sure that we hear from him and that he dominates the news cycle because his message is important and fighting misinformation, getting us to the right spot on understanding the complexities of what we face. It's important for us to hear from him.
Dina?
First of all, thank you for having me. I love being the elephant in the room. And before I come on air, I always pray Psalm 19:14 that the words of my mouth glorify God. And so this screaming match that just happened, that doesn't honor him, and I apologize. I don't ever want to present misinformation, and I also support Black media and diversity of thought. So if you go to bpalivewire.com, that is a website, a platform that my sister and I host. And on bpalivewire.com tomorrow, we will share some of the information about conservatives and Republicans actually voting for CHIP, actually endorsing and passing legislation that empowers and funds community health centers. We'll talk about everything from, we want to talk about the over 90 executive orders that President Biden instituted that took away the Trump administration's immigration reform that's leading to this open border. So we'll talk about those things. We also encourage you, of course, always to support Roland and these conversations and fund him there. BPA Livewire is actually free right now, so bpalivewire.com for diversity of thought in the Black community.
Great.
Thank you, Roland. And this is very important. Nobody's going to hear this anywhere else. I would just say I agree with you, Lauren. I mean, he's too old. And the whole political landscape changes. We know this whole thing could be changed in a year, whether he runs again or not. We heard tonight a commercial. Most of my students, like yours, Congo, they didn't watch this. And so we better listen to what Tiffany is talking about. The shrinking participation of voters combined with voter suppression, there's a very small margin for error. Democrats just moved their primary South Carolina up first. This could be a free-for-all by the time we start running for president. And so Kamala Harris being undermined from within is a problem. Now, can she win? We don't know. But we know one thing, finally, on the Republican side, there's no guarantee. Andrew DeSantis has no charisma. He's going to be in the field with Nikki Haley, maybe Tim Scott, maybe Mike Pompeo, maybe Mike Pence. But if they're all in, that means Trump could very well be, in fact, will probably be the nominee if he's not in jail. Shout out to Fannie Willis and Tish James. But the point is that at the end of the day, what we are facing is a map that we can only begin to try to predict about what's going to happen next. And what Joe Biden did tonight is make a series of commercials that he thinks is going to get Democrats across. And as I end, I would say people need to listen to you, Roland, because if that is the roadmap they lay out, they're setting themselves up for what Cliff has been fighting against and what Tiffany's been fighting against and what you've been trying to tell them, which is you better listen to some Black people.
Final comment. There was this great scene in The West Wing, my all-time. You didn't speak?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, Reese.
Go. I thought you did. Hurry up. Go.
No.
You didn't speak? I thought you did. Go.
Okay. We've talked a lot about the Democratic strategy, the White House strategy. I just want to challenge us, because we're about civic engagement. I just want to challenge us to be engaged as well.
Yes.
And the things that we say we care about, seek out the information on that, because it is out there. It's not digestible. It's not necessarily easily available, but it is out there. And then we can help spread the priorities and the receipts for what's being done out there far and wide.
One of my favorite shows was The West Wing. There was this great scene where there was a Latino politician, and the White House got upset because he was sitting courtside with another Democrat, and they called him in and they said, "Hey, what were you doing?" He said, "I was at the game." And they said, "We gave you all of this last time." He said, "That was last time." What do I get this time?
Yes, sir.
The reality is, this president needs a return on investment to Black people. And that is, he ain't president without Black people in South Carolina. He ain't president without Black people all across the country.
That's right.
And so the bottom line is, he has to be pushed. He has to be pushed as aggressively as possible. To this White House, understand, I will be riding the hell out of you over the next 2 years. Why? There's no guarantee he'll be president beyond 2024. And so we should be getting every damn thing we deserve while he is there. everything. And so understand, you are going to be hearing from us a hell of a lot more. And if you can't handle the heat, well, then you might want to go find a new job. Folks, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, where we keep it real, keep it black. Be sure to support us in what we do. Your dollars actually make all of this possible, paying for staff, this office and everything. Check your money orders, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at Roland S. Martin, and Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Thank all of our panelists for being here. Everybody who's via Skype as well. We have more tomorrow. Jackson Mayor Chokwe Lumumba was going to be on. The Republicans in Mississippi in the State House have passed a bill to create a separate court system and a separate police force to govern all of Jackson, Mississippi. You can't have a nearly all-white legislature trying to control a majority black city. We'll be discussing that tomorrow. That's Republicans in Mississippi. We'll be dealing with them. Y'all know how we gonna do that. What, he broke the record? Yes. Oh, so LeBron James broke the all-time scoring record? Okay, all right. That happened while we were live as well. I'll check SportsCenter when I get home. Y'all know how we end the show. Holla! Yeah, I got a text.